Hi Aparna, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Hope
Thank you.
all is well at your end as well.
Yes. Everything is fine. Thank you so much for coming in. Hope everything is fine with you, your friends, family. How is Bombay? I know things are
All
not
doing
that
very
good.
well. No, not as good as it could have been, but that's pretty much the scenario around the world. But
Right. Yeah.
just acceptance here and just see what best we can do under the current circumstances. Knowing fully well, I think keeping safe is the priority.
True. Yes. So Aparna Popat, of course, you need very little introduction to Indian badminton scenario, especially for people who follow Indian badminton, because you have done, not one or two things. You've done a lot of things for Indian badminton. You have put basically Indian badminton on a map wherein, before the arrival of, say, players like Saina Nehwal and then PV Sindhu, you were kind of undisputed, queen of badminton, for so many reasons. One, of course, because you were a 9-time national champion, which a record that you hold, in equal terms with the legendary Prakash Padukone. And then you have represented India at the Olympics twice, and you have won 3 medals at Commonwealth Games on 3 different occasions, right? And of course, you were also conferred with the prestigious Arjuna Award, in 2005. Right? Yeah. So of course the list will go on. But before all that, you actually, a very important event happened to your badminton career. When you won the silver medal at the Junior World Championship, right? So obviously that says that you were kind of a prodigy to start off with, right? Because that's a talent that was, of course, fought quite early on. So tell us something about how did badminton start for you? Of course, you had to be a very talented badminton player quite early on. Just to start with that on that note, yeah.
I think my love for sports really started very early. When I was a child, I was extremely active at home. I would turn a lot of the house into a sporting arena, try and do hurdle over furniture, do headstands on the sofa.
Oh, okay.
I in fact learned doing the cartwheel after watching the 82 Asian Games.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
so yeah, quite a self-taught sort of sports person right until I was 8 years old when I think, troubled my mom too much. She sent me to the club, said, just join any sport, join a summer camp, get out of my hair. And that's when I went to the CCI club in Mumbai, and I accidentally met a gentleman called Mr. Anil Pradhan. Again, a very reputed coach at that time because he had coached many national champions, in before me. And somebody just said, you approach him, he doesn't coach too many people, and you try your luck. And when I went to him, I said, I've never held a badminton racket in my life. And he said, okay, you come tomorrow, I'll see if you're good, I'll coach you. Otherwise you can join the summer camp like all the other kids. So I said, well, that's fair enough, I'll take my chance. Went the next day. He made me literally do some forward running, backward running, some jumping jacks, and he said, you come from tomorrow. He told my mom, send her any, even Bata white shoes are all right. Any racket is fine, but just send this child tomorrow. From tomorrow, I will coach her. She will not join any camp. She will be under me, individually. And that's where the journey really started. From the first 3 months, I think he didn't even allow me onto a badminton court. I would pretty much go to court, do all practice, and go back home. So that's how slowly and systematically my journey sort of started. But then I learned very quickly. I think if I look back, I think that was one of my strengths, that I could learn extremely quickly. So my
Okay.
progress happened much faster than he even expected. So I remember him telling me, every day when I go home, and I used to travel by train in Mumbai, and he said my journey back from the club to my house would always be, trying to come up with a new challenge for you, for the next day's training session. So I think that's how it happened. This was in 86 when I started playing. By 89, I won my first national championships under 12.
Oh.
I was
Oh.
11 years old then,
Right.
and won my first national championships. And then it just went on in a very sort of organized. Now I see a pattern in the way my career progressed, because When I was 12, I reached the under 15 finals, the national finals. And when I was 14, I reached the under 18 national finals. So it was
Wow.
always, just keeping that much ahead of the competition in my own age group. And if I look back now in my career, we look at the 9 senior national titles, but I actually won every national title in my age group in the year that I was supposed to, and reached the seniors, in the next
Wow.
age group, reached the finals.
True.
Save 1 year when I was 12, when I lost in the finals of the under 15.
Okay. So
So
basically, you had only one loss, so to say. I mean that way.
I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
loss, a final,
Yeah.
like a runners up, but
Yeah. Yeah.
otherwise a national title every year from the day I started playing the nationals to the day I retired. Yeah.
Wow, that's some story. Yeah, yeah. I mean, talking about coaches, like you said, you started off. I mean, your formative years. You were coached by Anil Pradhan sir, right? And then you went to Prakash Padukone Academy, and you were coached by the legendary Prakash Padukone himself. And then you went to Sai Sports Authority of India, Bangalore, Kengadi, right? And where you were coached by Gangula Prasad, right? So obviously, all these were great coaches in their own rights. But I'm trying to ask you from the players' point of view. Of course, they have got different approaches to the game. They have to, right? And different techniques also, different tactics, so to say, But how do you, as a player, adapt to these changes in the different, approaches of maybe the 3 different coaches? Just trying to ask you from a player's perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great question because, adapting to coaching styles is something very important. And sometimes easy to do, sometimes not so easy to do. So when I was with Anil Pradhan, I call him Anil Uncle fondly, he was more like a coach who nurtured me. He's my guru. He taught me everything there was about the game, yes, from the grip to the footwork, but he also taught me the concept of the game, which
Okay.
which is something very difficult for coaches to do, because you can teach a kid a stroke, but you can't teach them how to use it and when to use it and why you use it at that particular. And he was very good with that sort of coaching.
Okay.
Again, because it was individual coaching, I think I benefited a lot. And I was a very, very keen learner, as I mentioned earlier. It was always like, tell me why,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
break it down for me, but tell me why. I need to understand why I'm doing, what you're telling me to do. So he was more like a father to me. And that was easy because he took care of me in a lot of ways. So I think he had to adapt to me more than me adapting to him at that age because I was very
Okay.
young.
Well, true. Yes.
It's really when I went after my 10th standard exams, immediately I shifted to Bangalore. In fact, it was a gift I asked of my parents for my 16th birthday. When they asked me, what do you want? And I said, I want to go to Bangalore. And which really meant me leaving home, leaving them, staying on my own for the first time. And this was a time, when there were no cell phones, there was no
True.
easy
Yes. Yeah.
access,
Yeah. Yeah.
you couldn't catch a flight and come back and forth when you wanted to, money wasn't free flowing. And
True.
also, it was the first time that, um, I had to manage everything on my own, right from my stay to my food to my training. Now, remember also the Prakash Padukone Academy, where I shifted, was the first academy in India for badminton. So it
Oh.
had
Yeah.
come up, this was in 1994. And in fact, I shifted in, say, March 1994. I shifted to Bangalore. And the academy formally opened somewhere in October, September, October of 1994. So I'd gone there before the actual launch of,
Okay.
formal
Okay. Yeah.
launch of the academy. But
True.
I went there just because, getting a chance to train under Prakash Padukone and, Vimal Kumar, and these were huge names. These were heroes,
True.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So the training there was absolutely different. Now you're in an academy setup. Nobody's pampering you there. They're looking at things. They're comparing you to your fitness to international badminton. They're pushing your speed, and your style of play to international badminton. So suddenly I was like, from this Indian sort of soft touch
True,
play
true, true.
stroke
Yeah,
play.
yeah.
Say, where's the
Okay.
power? Where's the speed?
Okay.
Where's your endurance? You got to
Yeah.
play like this for 1 hour. Playing 10 minutes at this speed is not good enough. So it was more. I went straight from doing 1 session a day to doing 3 sessions a day.
Oh, okay.
Which in Mumbai, we hardly did any physical training. I think I winged my first, whatever, 6-8 years of my career purely on stroke play and, my sports acumen and whatever you may call it, a bit of luck here and there. But it was really then that I realized what the sport actually entailed if I wanted to succeed internationally. So days became like me getting up at 4:15 in the morning. In Bangalore winters, which was pretty
Yeah,
cold
yeah.
at that
During that
point
time,
in
it's
time.
very cold. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, trying to get my bike to start because in that cold, the bike
It won't
just
start.
doesn't start. So I think my
True,
warm
true.
up pretty much started there, where I
With the
was
bike itself.
kick-starting
Yeah,
my bike
yeah, yeah.
to on my own trying to get to the stadium by 4:30 before the seniors came in. Because once the seniors came in, all the weight training equipment and everything would be taken by them, which means I wouldn't get to do training like I wanted to. So I would get there before everyone. For people who are familiar with Bangalore, Cubbon Park, to actually ride
Yes,
my
yes.
bike alone at 4:30 in the dark
Yes, yes.
to
I'm from
Cubbon
Bangalore.
Park.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
Yeah.
very, very scary.
Yes, yes. Of course. Yeah,
And
yes,
and
yeah.
and you had like a sleeveless sweater. On top of that, you had your tracksuit, your jacket, you had your gloves on, helmet on, because you don't want to fall ill at the same
Of
time.
course. Yeah,
You want to
yeah.
get to the stadium in time,
True.
and so it was like this whole astronaut sort of feeling, going through Cubbon Park. But this is the kind of gruel that you went through. After that, came back uh, home, went sort of to pick up your tiffin from this lady who used to tie my breakfast outside her door on her latch. So I would pick up my breakfast dabba from there, have breakfast quickly, go to college. I was in Mount Carmel College. So I would
Okay.
attend college from 9 to 1. 1 o'clock again, go back to auntie's house, leave the breakfast dabba, take my lunch dabba from the latch outside, uh, go to this back for badminton training at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So 2 to 4 would be badminton coaching. And then we'd get onto our bikes again by 5 o'clock and we'd ride to Kantirava Stadium for physical training or to Cubbon
Oh,
Park or whatever.
true,
So
true. Yeah,
5
yeah.
to about 6:30 would be physical training again. And by the time we got home, it was 7:30. And again, go back to auntie's house, again, get your dinner from the latch. And then finally, wind up the day washing clothes or whatever you needed to do. Study if a test exam was coming up, and then call it a day, only to get up the next day. And this was a time when we used to train 7 days a week, so
Oh,
including Sundays. So Sundays used to be a 1 hour run every Sunday morning, and that's how I had to adapt to that sort of training system, because suddenly you have a different vision, from winning the nationals. You suddenly started looking
true, true.
international,
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
and that really paid off, because that's when the World Junior Championship success came in 1996, which I think we all trained for it, but nobody really expected it to happen, just because no one had done it before. And I went into the World Junior Championships, not knowing what was to happen, very eager,
True. Yeah.
well prepared. We had about a 2-week training stint in Denmark before the tournament started. So that definitely helped, building confidence and building the familiarity of the place. But yeah, I think, that sort of put me onto, the road to thinking, okay, international badminton is possible. But that was again just through the guidance of Prakash Padukone, Vimal Kumar, and their team. Mr. Bidu was there, who used to do our physical training, and
Okay.
and a lot of coaches at the academy. And so then that happened in an academy setup. After that, in about 2001, I shifted to Kengeri, to the Sports Authority of India Center, trained under Mr. Ganguly Prasad, who was an excellent coach. I mean, after so many years, he taught me things that I did not know at all,
Okay.
and literally improved. at that stage, you don't feel you can sort of take that leap and improve your game. But, through his training, I took that leap, not only through in my game, but also in my physical fitness. Again, he was an individual. He would look at you on a day-to-day, sort of discuss with you, okay, what training do you want to do today? What's good for you? How are you feeling? So it wasn't that regimented, today is this session, you have to do this session. And he'd really see how you responded. More individualistic sort of approach, more, very friendly. Again, I could talk to him, I could discuss and say, he'd give me a training schedule and say, do this. And I'd say, but when I did this last time, this is how I felt. And but I was also at a stage by then and I could give him that feedback. So had to adapt to that, again, because he was a mix of a mentor and of course very much my coach, but there was a lot of motivation, self-motivation required at that end, also that accountability to look after yourself. So I think all three were very different sort of training setups. At Sai, I was staying in a hostel. Again, I went from staying at a paying guest when I shifted to Bangalore, to then staying in a flat with other flatmates, to then staying in a flat alone, managing that, to then being in a hostel. So I went through all,
the entire journey.
So there was adjusting with the coach and the coaching. There was adjusting with the environment. There was adjusting with expectations and pressures and growing up. Adapting was something that I had.
True. And all the hard work, of course, bore fruits, and you became a champion that we all know you are. Now, talking about the Athens Olympics, of course, you participated in 2 Olympics, but I guess Athens is wherein we all know that you were quite confident of, you actually said that you were one of the main prospects, and the whole of India actually looked up to you as one of the main prospects, so to say. Because at that time, I guess you were around world number 23, something of that sort, right? Yeah. And in fact, you reached the pre-quarters wherein you lost to the eventual silver medalist, Mia Audina, in 3 games. You took her to the fullest distance, so to say. Obviously, you played well. But how did you actually prepare for the Athens Olympics? Because obviously it comes 4 years. Olympics comes once in 4 years. You obviously will not be preparing yourself for the entire 3-4 years, because you have to go match by match, tournament to tournaments. But when do you actually, think in terms of Olympics? Okay, Olympics is say 2 months away. This is how I need to train. So how does that actual, preparation for the Olympics happens? Because I'm sure you don't prepare for the entire 2 years before that, right? Because it's so much ahead of you at that point, right?
Yeah. So I think when the Olympics, when you start thinking Olympics, I think the pressure is on you every day. At a time when we're talking about, say, even my first Olympics in 2000, where I went, and then 2004 that you asked me about, I think badminton in India was at a stage where qualifying for the Olympics was a bigger deal.
Yes.
And we were more focused on actually qualifying, because the funda really there was, if you don't qualify, then what are you going to prepare, right? Now the qualification process depended on the amount of points you accumulated playing international badminton. So the government would support us to play about 8 tournaments in a calendar year. And also they would take a decision where these teams would be selected to play these 8 tournaments based on your domestic performance. So it was very important for me to actually keep up my performance on a domestic level consistently, because you don't want to take a chance of them dropping you from the team. And, I would always face this sort of pressure to say, I don't even want to be number 2 in the women's singles, because it's very easy to drop a number 2 as well and say, sorry, we don't have funds, and we'll send only one, entry in the women's singles. So what happened was, even when you're preparing, you suddenly start focusing on domestic badminton more than international badminton, where at a time when I used to play, the levels of the domestic badminton, or rather not the level, I think the style of play in India and the style of play abroad was significantly different.
True.
So
yes.
if I had to prepare to do well in national tournaments so that I could play international tournaments, so that I could reach the Olympics. It was that sort of dissipated preparation in many ways. And while we felt I can speak, I think, for my batchmates as well at that point, while we felt we had the talent, but it's just that our efforts were so scattered because of these different the things that were happening at that point in time, that our preparation for the Olympics wasn't as targeted as it is today. And not to say
Okay.
that we didn't work hard, or didn't work the hardest we possibly could under the current circumstances and with the resources. It's just that it was maybe not, our preparation wasn't as it should have been for an event such as the Olympics, because as you said, it comes once in 4 years. It's not only um, just playing the tournament, but it's also carrying the expectations and the pressures from externally as well as internally that you put on yourself. And then, of course, once you get to the Olympics, you suddenly realize, oh my God, this is like a completely different sort of experience, which sort of puts you back that, that couple of steps. But I all I could say is that I trained the best that I could with what I had. I think very grateful that I could play to Olympics at a time, when, as I said, qualifying itself was a challenge. Did manage to get my world ranking up to speed, and representing the country is a different high, right?
Obviously, yeah, sure. No, that's a very interesting point you said. Of course, without taking anything away from you, you have been a champion. The undisputed queen of badminton, like I said already during your time. But just trying to understand, did you feel that because you didn't have too many competition at the domestic circuit, because you you was always the number one. Did you feel that was kind of a hindrance for you to be a better player? When I'm saying better player, everyone wants to be a better player, right? So did that help? In the international circuit, so to say, did it hinder your progress in terms of your international badminton, success in some way because you didn't have competition here,
I like to believe that I stayed above my competition. Not that there wasn't any, because there were many talented players as well, and I would push myself every day to reinvent, to ensure that I stayed above board, because as I mentioned to you, that I wanted to be number one so that I could play international badminton. And that's when the record 9 national senior titles really happened. I think that was a big motivation to make it happen.
Yeah.
But having said that, yes, pushing yourself, having a competition domestically is extremely important, but it's one of the factors, many factors that you feel that could be a hindrance, or it could have been better. Like I just recently was watching an interview of PT Usha where she said, her preparation going to the Olympics, she said, I was always like 40, 50 meters ahead of the rest. So, how could I really push myself and gauge my form?
That's exactly my point, yeah.
But, having said that, if you really look at it in a positive way, if that was really the problem or the only problem, then there were avenues where you said you could go out, play different leagues or go to another, country and train there. And, so there were other things that could have been done. But I think there were other challenges as well, apart from just having, a competition on the domestic level, such as funds. Because I remember trying to qualify for the 2000 Olympics. As I said, the government was only, paying those 8 tournaments, and I needed to play a couple of more. And I didn't have the money. My dad didn't have the money to sort of give me to play the tournament. So I remember writing to my employers at that time, Indian Oil Corporation. I remember writing to sponsors or seeking sponsors where they said, we can't pay full, we'll pay half. And then suddenly, it was the international federation that said that you've been one of the best performers in Asia, so we'll bear a part of the cost. And so, we put this jigsaw puzzle sort of together, and I went to play the Japan Open, just because of that. It was just one tournament, but it would just give me that safety to know that I had, I would make the cut and qualify. So I didn't want to take the chance. So that was one thing. That point there were not many international tournaments coming to India. So we wouldn't have international exposure on home soil either. So that was another thing. We were at a point where nobody really believed in the sport of badminton. Even though, Gopi's All England win came in 2001.
Yeah.
So that's when people sort of really started taking badminton seriously again, because it was again, remember, 21 years after Prakash Padukone had won his All England.
True. Yeah.
So the sport wasn't taken that seriously, which means we didn't have the funding, the resources, you can train very hard, but you won't recover as well. Weren't well informed about nutrition either. And all this is not to say that, we're complaining or I have any regrets, but just to give you a background of, how many challenges we had in terms of shuttles. We didn't know which shuttles, whether we'd have shuttles or not to practice. Which shuttles were being used for the tournament.
Yeah.
We'd reach like maybe half a day before your match was to start, where you'd step on the court and say that acha kya hua, performance nahi, sir, I couldn't play. So he's like, why couldn't you play? We reached half a day before. How are we going to get form? I've trained really hard, and then only to get judged because saying, oh, but you had international exposure. So I would always say that international exposure only benefits you when you go and prepare and you can learn from it.
True, yes.
So a lot of the times we went international exposure, no coach, to be with us. And when I'd come back, to my coach or to my training center, and he said, Aparna, what happened in your match? And I said, self-assessment, this is what I feel happened, But it was again as much as we understood. So at a point, I even invested in a video camera, which at that point was expensive because we wouldn't really make money off the sport, right? So these all, self sort of funding. And I remember very vividly in the Malaysian Open, where the way that matches used to be announced was the next free court. So my match was next, it would be on the next free court. So I couldn't set up my camera till like 5 minutes before the match. So I would be running to set up my camera on the court that I felt my match would be on. And my camera would be lying all alone somewhere in the stands, recording, my match, hopefully. And I would just be, quite worried that somebody could just pick that thing up and walk off.
My God. Oh, yeah. I mean, you have to think so many things. Yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean, it was natural, right?
It's obviously.
Something that you own, and you just left it lying about there.
Yeah.
I remember this one recording where I got the recording. I came back, played it for my coach, and he's saying, "But where's your third game?" And I said, "Battery died." And
oh my God. I know.
Really fun, but different times than it is today. But we tried our best, and of course, it goes without saying that if we had the facilities that there are today, we would have definitely done better. I'm dead sure I would have done better.
Yes,
but
obviously.
But it's just we're so happy that the sport of badminton in India has evolved to such a level, and that's how it should be. And I'm glad that has happened. But no regrets. I've had a great career.
No, obviously. I mean, So, I mean, it's about somebody showing the part, you showed the part, and then Saina, came in. In fact, I think in your last win as a national champion, you beat Saina, who was just evolving as a player, a young player. I mean, obviously, she would also have looked up to you at that point in time. So that's how it, evolves, right? I mean, so yeah, you have had a great career, of course. Now, talking about because we do understand badminton at that time, like you said, like rightly said, was not taken as seriously, because of so many reasons, fun problem, this and that. So you had to leave badminton at around 27 years, which I guess is not, I will not say you had to quit too early, but again, I guess 2-3 years you could have played quite comfortably, right? So was it also one of the reasons that, your wrist injury could not be diagnosed because, for whatever reasons, because you didn't have the right doctors because of the fun problem, this and that. So was that also one of the reasons, which maybe in today's India, maybe it could have been solved quite soon.
Yeah, I think it was definitely the reason why I had to stop. In fact, about a year and a half before I actually stopped, which was in 2006, is when I played my last national championships. Um, and I got my record ninth title, right? About a year and a half before I started feeling a niggling in my wrist, and the pain would come once in, say, 3-4 months, and I would ignore it, and it went on, but I ignored it, and it went on till the pain started sort of coming once a week and even once every 3 days. And at that point of time, when that happened, I was training again. I could play only once a week. There was no guarantee whether I could step on the court, and I would be able to even complete my training session. My wrist had become extremely painful to affecting my daily activities. Like I couldn't drive a car anymore. I couldn't really comb my hair anymore. I'd started
Oh,
brushing my teeth with my left hand. I'd started, drinking tea with my left hand, which, so that I wouldn't take a chance. My wrist would constantly be in a crepe bandage, so I don't move it in any odd way. So I just save it up basically for my practice sessions. Um, but I remember distinctly my last national championships, going to my physio, and she's saying, Aparna, I can't do anything more for you. I don't know what the problem is. And this was after having done MRIs, after having done all the scans, X-rays possible, consulting the specialists, and doing whatever there was available at that point in time. And I didn't know what was happening and why. I couldn't find the days the pain would come or not come. So I'd even stopped doing weight training, lifting things with my hand. Upper body exercises were completely gone, which means I'd lost a lot of strength in my smashes.
true, true, yeah.
The power had gone. There were a lot of strokes that I couldn't play, including my forehand service. Serving forehand like the natural
Oh my
single
God,
service
that's really bad. Yeah.
extreme was me taking a risk, because the pain would come back in that particular angle that I'd moved my wrist at. So I believe I was playing like at 60% of what I could have, because I cut out so many strokes from my game. And when the physiotherapist actually told me, she said, I don't know how you're going to go through this tournament, because if you play one day and then need 6 days to recover, how are you going to play match after match? And I
True.
just told her, I said, if it's to happen, it'll happen. And that's it. Those were my words to her. And I said, don't worry, you see what'll happen, in the end. And it was just fate. There was absolutely no rationality to what I said.
Yeah.
And I, in fact, started off that national championship serving backhand, which I've never done before,
Okay.
in singles. So, people thought it was strategy. It wasn't. It was just to
Okay.
protect my wrist, so that I would go through the earlier rounds that were relatively easier without straining my wrist at all. And, match after match, I went on playing at night. I would tie a crepe bandage, put my hand under the pillow so that it wouldn't move around, even accidentally in my sleep.
My God. Yeah.
And I said, look, just let me take it as it comes. And as it happened, I did in the end manage to, win that ninth national title. It was a match after which I got a standing ovation, which I feel was extremely special, that moment. I didn't go into the tournament thinking it was the ninth title, or, it would be a record, or, whether it was, Prakash Uncle's record. And I'm glad I didn't think of it that way. I think the injury was distraction enough. My entire attention was not even on my opponent. It wasn't even on strategy. It was just,
On your wrist. Yeah.
praying, saying, let me play. I
Yeah.
just hope if I play, I know I can win. But if the pain had come back, I wouldn't have been able to. I would have had to leave the tournament midway. And as fate may have it, the morning after my finals, after the tournament was over, the pain was back. So it was just that it was something that was meant to be. But at that point, I also realized that, I was done. I couldn't take the stress
True.
anymore and risk my wrist, because it was affecting, as I said, my daily activities. And I said, my right wrist, I can't afford to, have it in a bad condition for the rest of my life.
True. True.
So
Yeah. Then.
yes, having good medical support like they have today, there was no question that I would have been back in less than a couple of months or 3 months, but it's just that it remained undiagnosed.
I know.
And yeah, I had to walk away.
True. Yeah. But anyway, I mean, you walked off with a national champion as a national champion. I mean, you walked away with glory again. That's what
Yeah, I
important,
think
I guess. Yeah.
I think retiring unbeaten is something that's very satisfying.
True. Definitely, yes. True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, talking about evolution of badminton, international badminton, so to say. I mean, when you used to play, 11-point game, right? And the men's used to play 15-point game. Now it has become 21 game. So, how much has it evolved from your days to current days? The dynamics of badminton as such, does it require more fitness, or how is it like?
Yeah, I think there have definitely been many rule changes in the sport. Since I played. But
you're serving also. You will, that way your points were also longer, right? It's only when you serve you win the point.
Yeah, it was on like you could win a point only on your serve. So that was the 11-point system that also I believe afforded a lot of creativity, because you could take chances on your own serve, and people could be creative and try different things. It gave you that room to sort of experiment. And then in fact after that 11 and 15-point format came a 7-point format. So I've played one national championships with that 7x5 format, which was absolutely crazy, because 7 points would be like off in a blink, and it almost seemed like we were changing ends more than we were actually playing points. So that came in between. Luckily it went off, and then came the 21-point format. So I've played through 3 scoring patterns. So that was definitely one change in the game. The other change was obviously with the service. I think a lot of people shifted to a backhand service.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That happened. Then came the service rules, in a sense, at what height you could serve, what could be called a fault, what couldn't be called a fault. That changed the game around a little bit. And of course, there were technical and technological advances in the sport that certainly helped. As far as adapting to these changes are concerned, I think fitness was something that has, constantly been tested in the sport of badminton. If you look at the way the sport is played today, with Sindhu having that, I don't know what monstrous 72 shot rally, 73 stroke rally, to matches going well beyond, like 90-minute matches are sort of, not looked upon as something extraordinary. So physical fitness is definitely, speed is being tested. And sometimes I just joke, I said, for badminton the next step for badminton really increase the dimensions of the court, because these players are becoming so fit that they're managing to retrieve anything on the court. So if you want the point to end early, make the court bigger. There's no other way, because these guys are just, it's mind-boggling. They're acrobats at the same time. They're these really powerful, strong beasts. And there's something about the sport of badminton that stands out, because I think the only other sport being volleyball is where the demands of a player is where they have to get up very high when they jump up for the jump smashes. But they've also got to get down very low to get to the smash and the close net, the drop shots at the net. And so that takes a lot of effort. And you need very, very strong legs to actually make that, movement up and down, and they're not very linear movements. So the sport of badminton has certainly, the physical fitness has been a big part of it.
True. Yes, true. Now, talking about Indian badminton, of course, we have now some brilliant crop of players, so to say, great players. Saina is there, Sindhu is there. In the men's, of course, we have seen Kidambi also was as high as world number 1 at one point in time. Then Sai Praneeth, so many guys are there. Now talking about the next generation, because I always think about the next generation coming up. Of course, we've got Lakshya Sen, who's really doing well. Also, we've got the doubles, guys, young guys there, and they're also doing well. But do you think we'll have the next Saina, Sindhu, coming up? I mean, or does it lack the depth of the badminton? I mean, it's a very vague question, maybe. I mean, how is the depth of badminton you see from the next generation who are coming up? From somebody like Laksh. Of course, Laksh is already doing it, Laksh Sen. But apart from him, do you see the other guys also coming up to their level? How is like?
When we talk about bench strength, first we need to look at the numbers, okay, of kids playing the sport at that level. Does badminton have those many kids? For sure. I mean, there's so many kids playing very good badminton today. Do they have good role models? For sure. With these champions that you just mentioned, they've set the bar so high that these kids, automatically nowadays you go and ask them, so what do you want to be? They say, we want to be Olympic gold medalist. It's not even want to be an Olympian, not even want to win an Olympic medalist.
Yeah. The benchmark. Yeah.
They've just set
Yeah.
targets so high. Will these kids be able to get to that level? They have the caliber, they have the talent, but there's no shortcut. They'll have to go through the burn. They'll have to go through the fire. They'll have to, work as hard as the Saina and Sindhus and Srikanths have. And also you have to know that a lot of it also depends on the environment of the sport at that particular time. You may call it luck, you may call it, whatever it be, but you have to work within the reality. Sometimes it's not that you're bad, it's just that there may be better players at that point in time. So you can't get there. Sometimes an injury could trip up these players. Sometimes it could just, it could be just many factors. But do we have the caliber? Do we have the talent? For sure we have the talent. Whether they will be able to make it big, only time will tell. And, I'm expecting success not only in the singles, but also in the doubles. With the way our doubles players have set, become these role models and their performances have been brilliant. We definitely can look for more success in the sport of badminton.
True, that's great news. Yeah. So during your playing days, who was your role model? Whom do you used to look up to in your badminton circle? Internationally, it might be, anybody, your role model,
Yeah, I think at that point
your favorite player. Sorry.
The Chinese used to be really, really big.
Yeah. Okay.
So we definitely want to emulate the Chinese when it came to badminton. So Gong Zichao was one such player who I really looked up to. She was very, short and frail, but extremely crafty and very, very talented. And I always felt that one of my drawbacks, for international badminton was my physique. I just wasn't strong enough. I could play the rallies, I could outmaneuver the opponents, but I couldn't finish the rallies off because I didn't have that kind of strength. So she was a kind of player who I'd look up to because similar sort of, stature, but of course she was much faster and stronger than I was. But, I would just say that I want to play that kind of a game. That would suit me. As far as domestic was concerned, Prakash Padukone, huge role model. And he was a mentor. I trained under him. So that inspiration always stood out. But outside badminton, I think for me, Steffi Graf was my idol. And I always wanted to sort of have that kind of approach to the sport and, conduct myself in that kind of a manner. So these were probably, my idols and inspiration.
True. Right. So now you're, of course, actively involved with the Badminton Gurukul, right? An initiative of Pulela Gopichand. Tell us something about it. Of course, we have seen a lot of activities around that, but what basically, is what you're planning going in future, and what are major things that you have been doing? Of course, you have done, I think you're also quite involved with the Premier League also, Badminton Premier League and stuff like that. So I guess that's something that Indian badminton can really look forward, right? With the kind of activity that you have been doing. Just tell us something more about that.
Yeah, so starting with probably Badminton Gurukul, it's Gopichand's vision actually, where he believed that, playing is just more than winning medals. And that is something that really resonated with what I believe, because though I've played the sport at a very competitive level, after I've stopped playing, I think you realize that sport, and I honestly never played sport because I love to win. Though I've heard a lot of champions say they played sport because they love to win. I clearly played sport because I love to play. And
True.
I love to be better. And I wanted to reach that perfection. And that perfection sort of got me those wins. It was a byproduct. And that's how I approached the game. And somewhere I very strongly believe that you need to get kids or people involved in sport because they love to play the game, not because they're chasing medals. And that's when the concept of physical literacy really came in, where you say you want to increase the participation in sport. And if you do that, there's certain talents will shine through and you take them to the competitive level. But you don't start off with that. And, Badminton Gurukul is one such initiative where you say, come out and play. And when you come out and play, learn the right way so that you enjoy the sport more and you stick with it for life and remain fit and healthy and all the other good things that come with playing a sport. So, so I've been involved with Badminton Gurukul just for this reason. Then, yes, I love the sport and I love analyzing the sport. So when I got a chance to do TV commentary at the Premier Badminton League, in fact, did 5 seasons of it.
Yes.
I thoroughly enjoyed it because I would get to watch matches and I would get to talk about them and analyze them. And for me, what really stands out about sport is the strategy of it. I love thinking sport. So TV commentary was something that initially I thought I could never do because I was an absolute introvert, very, very shy. In school days, if you put a mic in my hand, I would barely, stutter with a sentence. From that kind of an individual to come out and actually, do TV commentary or stand in front of, or do live TV and things like that was something very different, but something I worked on and I hope I got good at, over the years. But yes, TV commentary is something that I do. Also, like mentoring kids, I love talking sport. Going on committees, if there's any way that I can make a difference to the sport, be fair. It hurts you when you hear things are not right within sport. You want it to be fair. You want it to be good. You want it to be a safe space or a space where kids would yearn or parents would want kids to, come to and say, that's, where you need to be. So you want to make sport better and you want to make people better through sport. And at the same time, want yourself to continue learning because there are, believe it or not, it's been 3 decades in badminton now. There are so many things that I question myself on, about the sport and say, why this? Could it have been like this? Or why do we look at it like this? And that's the kind of person I am. I can't sit straight. I'll keep thinking and I want to keep learning and share as much with other people as I can.
Wow. Thank you so much, Aparna. I mean, it's really a pleasure talking to you. I mean, talk to a champion like you. And of course, I know you've done enough for Indian badminton, so to say. And it's really a pleasure to see our players also now still, continuing with that and producing champions now. So at the time when you played, you of course, were the undisputed champion, so to say. And you're still continuing with your passion for badminton, in your own form, be it with Badminton Gurukul or through your commentary. And like you said, learning never stops for you, right? You're still learning, unlearning, and that's the beauty about you, a champion like you. So thanks a lot, Aparna.
We're learning to do sport on the e-platform also now.
Yeah,
that's the new challenge.
yes, correct. So so situations are throwing in different challenges at us, and yes, we are adapting. And so thanks a lot, Aparna. It was really a pleasure having you, and yes, hope to meet you sometime in the future, as well, somewhere near the badminton court, which is your passion, which has been your passion throughout.
Yes. No, my pleasure. I think really enjoyed the chat. So thank you so much for this. Brings back a lot of memories.
Yes, definitely. I mean, you have given us so many memories, so it's our right, we also have to give something back to you, right? The memories that you gave us. So yeah, it's just a reflection.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Aparna. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Aparna. Yeah. Bye.
Take care. Stay
Bye.
safe. Thanks so much.
Bye.